Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Yesterday I put a post on the YouTube channel asking for viewer questions for a video, and now I'm going to answer them. So I'm going to do them in a whatever order YouTube put them in. So apologies if you asked first and you are going last on this one. I'm not sure how it does it. So the first question comes from Fred Holmes, and he says, would you ever play Luke 09 in the Premier League? And my answer to that is yes. He has signed a new contract recently at Sunderland. He has always proven himself every time he's moved up a level. We came from League One to the Championship, and a lot of people thought he wasn't a Championship player. In fact, even when we were in League One, people felt like he wasn't good enough. And he's continually improved and adapted. And if you watch, Alt Endon, who we've had on the channel recently, he talks about the fact that Luke 09 was fantastic for us in the Championship. His distributions are really high level. And I would tend to agree. I get that he looks a little bit unorthodox, but overall, he's done a really, really good job for us in jumping up the levels. I mean, he played centre-back all season for the team that finished fourth in the Championship last year, so he's clearly not a moron on the football pitch. I see Luke 09 as a utility player, somebody who can play anywhere across the back four and even chip in the middle of midfield if needed. I don't think he is necessarily going to start every single game, but I think Luke 09 is probably going to be a cover player for everywhere at the back, and that's fine. And if he's signed a new deal, I imagine he's probably accepted that. So yes, I would play Luke 09 in the Premier League. Next question, we had a few along these lines, but this is from Career Mode Thane, a big fan of the channel, so hello Thane. Do you think we'll see any of our deadline day signings start against Palace? Personally, I don't think so, but I think we'll see Brobbey and Gertruda on the bench. It's hard to see. It's difficult, isn't it? Because technically Brobbey and Gertruda have been in training, haven't they? So they've been in there since the end of deadline day, whereas obviously we've had players on international duty. Bertrand Traore's on international duty. So I don't know if we'll necessarily see them start. I wouldn't be shocked, though, to see Brobbey come in and play up front for this game. And especially with Mayenda being away on international duty, maybe we'll do that. But I also wouldn't be shocked to see him start Wilson Isidor as well. So do I think any will start? My gut feeling is probably not, but I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see Brobbey come in there just because, they spent a lot of money on him and maybe they think he is the answer going forward to link our, attack and play together. So gut says no, but not shocked if they do. Michael Bowers, he says, I'm stealing this question from the fellow, credit to them for this, who asked this on Jam Sarni's Q&A, but out of these options, which would you take? Beat Newcastle twice but go down, beat them once and lose them once but finish 17th, lose them twice and finish 10th. So the top option of beating Newcastle twice and go down is an instant no. You can't take rivalry over the club and its stability. That's just dumb. So definitely would not beat them twice and get relegated. That just is silly. Beat them once and lose to them once but finish 17th. It depends how nervy. I mean, obviously this would be fine. If we did that this season, I'd probably take that. But lose to them twice and finish 10th. I mean, we've had a cracking season if we finish 10th, even if we lose to Newcastle twice. So I'm sort of inclined to say that of them options, the first option of beating them twice and going down is a non-starter for me. Beat them once and lose to them once, we finish 17th. I mean, it would be nice to beat Newcastle once, but I also don't think the health of the club is far more important than winning one fixture. So I think I'd be inclined to say lose them twice and finish 10th. And look, this comes from somebody that grew up in a Newcastle supporting area. I live in Gateshead right now, which is obviously heavy Newcastle territory. But finishing 10th in the Premier League, the statement that would send would be massive. And I think fundamentally for attracting players and the progression of the club, finishing 10th is more important than beating Newcastle in the league. So my option is to lose them twice and finish 10th. I think that the health of the club is far more important than winning derby games. And look, if we finish 10th in the Premier League, the chances are we're a pretty strong Premier League team. So next season we could beat Newcastle. So yeah, I'm not one of them that is absolutely married to the most important thing, beating Newcastle. I care far more about the health and long-term success of the football club over winning derby fixtures. Callum K44 asks, who do you start up top against Palace's back three this weekend? Isidor, Mayenda and Brobbey. And I think this is interesting. We touched on this and whether or not I think if Brobbey would potentially start. I think Isidor has done enough when he's come on to potentially earn a start, but I just wonder with Isidor if he is better coming on and finishing. I mean, Reggie Slippery talks about finishers all the time. Is Isidor a finisher? Maybe. I would like to see him start a game though. I don't know if this is necessarily the one. This is going to be probably the first time we're really going to be able to enact our strong counter-attacking game. So it depends who fits into that system best. But I think right now, as I sit here on Wednesday morning, I would probably go with Isidor. That's who I am edging towards, just because he scored a couple of goals, he feels confident. I think you should reward that. Then we've got Mayenda and Brobbey to come on from the bench, and that could cause havoc. We could go to a 2 up front. We could put Mayenda potentially on the wing as well. So, yeah, I think I would go with Isidor. I think he's done enough to prove that he should be starting Premier League games. And I'm excited to see him try and start one from the start. And along the same lines, this is from my brother Niall. How do you expect the forward line to look on Saturday? Do you think Brobbey will be thrown straight in for his physicality, as Palace have a fantastic backline? And do you expect Lefay to keep his place over Adingra? So the first part of this one, I mean, I suppose they're all sort of linked, aren't they? Lefay on the left side, I don't know, because I think that this is going to be a game where we're really going to utilise the counter-attack. So he may fancy playing Adingra because of his speed and what he would bring in that sort of counter-attack. But then on the flip side to that, Lefay is very, very good at, starting off counter-attacks. We saw that against Coventry in the playoffs last season. I think that the wider question is whether or not the players that have been away on international duty, so Siddiqui and Diarra, they've been playing yesterday, so Tuesday, are they going to be back and able to play 90 minutes against Crystal Palace at the weekend? I would possibly expect not. I think Lefay will get the nod in the central area over one of Siddiqui and Diarra. I think Adingra will go on the left. I think Talby will go on the right. And I think through the middle, it's as I said, I would start Isidor, but obviously we don't know. But that's how I would expect us to line up. I think one of Siddiqui and Diarra will come out, just because of the international duty and the fact that players have been jetting around the world. We've got a question from a Newcastle fan here. As a rival supporter, I look at Sunderland's window and I'm impressed with the business your side has done. Who are you most excited by from the incomings? And I think naturally you kind of sort of lean towards Xhaka just because of how exciting a name he is. But I think from what I've seen at the start of the season, the player that I am most excited to see progress is Noah Siddiqui. I think he just looks like such a good player, so energetic, he's so young, he's got such development room. So I'm most excited by Siddiqui. He says, as for my own side, do you think Newcastle should stay true to Howe's 4-3-3 system, or could you see a change in shape given Voltmaid's versatility? I mean, obviously I don't like to talk about Newcastle all that much, but I feel like that 4-3-3 has been pretty rock solid for them. So I would probably say that, to be honest, I don't really understand why they've bought that Voltmaid. That's just my opinion on that one. It doesn't feels like a panic buy from Newcastle, it's fair to say. And it's interesting you compare the recruitment of the two. We seem to be much more pragmatic and much more planned business than Newcastle. So I think it would be idiotic for Newcastle to change their 4-3-3 system. But the most exciting question here, if money was no object, which player from the current Newcastle side would you sign for Sunderland? And if you look, I like Sunderland's team a lot, so I wouldn't like to necessarily, I like Roofs, I like Hume at right back, I like our centre-back options, I like Ronaldo at left back. I'm not saying Newcastle players aren't better than Sunderland's players, but I like all them players. I like our midfield three, and I like our front line. But I think if you would have to look at it, you'd probably say we were weakest in the attacking third. So with that being said, you probably look at Visser, maybe. I think he would probably be a perfect sign for Sunderland. We need goals. He scored 19 last season for Brentford. So I would say Visser. That would be the one that I would pick up from Newcastle. Similar question. This is from Callum K. He says, you have one Palace player in your Sunderland start 11. Who do you pick? I mean, he also says John Textor burns down Selhurst Park. Palace are dismantled to get themselves back on their feet. Who would you take from Palace? And I think you'd probably have to pick Mark Gay, wouldn't you? He's just such a world-class centre. Although then again, you could pick Mateta, who's an absolute beast up front. One of them too. But I just think he's like an elite world-class centre-back. So I think I would probably go with him. I mean, imagine him at the back for Sunderland. He would be absolutely sensational. Maybe I would go with Mateta. But I just think, I don't know, Gay just is like a once in a sort of yeah, players like that do not play at Sunderland's level, so I would say yay. Next question. We have a surprising amount of history at Selhurst Park. League Cup elimination in 2000, playoff semis in 04, beating Big Sam in 2017. What are your highs and lows as a fan at their ground? Well, I remember the 06-07 season. I think we lost there, and it was a really foggy game, I believe, and we lost. We were pretty poor. It was like one of the last defeats we'd had that season under Roy Keane. So that was, pretty big low. I also remember being Palace's first home win in 2013-14, their first season in the Premier League, and John O'Shea got sent off. I think that's probably the worst one, actually. We went there and we were awful. I think Stuart O'Keefe scored an absolute worldie for them. I think Dwight Gale scored as well. That is probably my worst memory at Crystal Palace. The best memories at Crystal Palace, I remember winning there on a Monday night. I think it was 3-1 maybe. Stephen Fletcher scored. It might be 1-0. I think we won there a couple of times back-to-back on a Monday night. So, yeah, one of them. The one where we wore that really nice white away kit that we never ever wore. I think we wore it once. And it was that night. That is possibly my favourite memory of Crystal Palace. Next question. Speakman and Co have done a phenomenal job, at least so far, in their recruitment. Is there a risk we might lose him and perhaps the whole model to a bigger fish in the Premier League? Will teams coming up start to copy our approach? So I think the first part of this question, is there a risk that we could lose them? Possibly, yes. I think the one thing that Sunderland have over maybe a Brighton, where they did see people like Dan Ashworth leave, and a lot of clubs, Leicester I think had this with their head of recruitment. He went to Everton years ago after they won the Premier League. I think Sunderland are a big enough club to sort of fend off those upper level Premier League teams. I'm not talking about like the top sort of 5 or 6 teams, but the ones like Villa and Everton and the teams of that ilk. I think Sunderland probably are big enough to sort of fend them off. There's nothing you can do if one of the elite clubs in Europe come in for them and try and poach them. But would this model copy over to one of them teams? I'm not like 100% sure. But I think there is a risk. Speakman, Stuart Harvey, obviously Gasolfi's just come in, so you wouldn't expect him to go anytime soon. But Harvey and Speakman definitely will have people who like the look of them and have people who are eyeing them up and thinking, right, these are the real deal, top level, executives and people who know football and have recruited a fantastic team with virtually no budget when we're in the Championship and got promoted. I could certainly see that, but the fact is what they've done has been in the Championship level of basically spending no money and getting promoted to the Premier League. Therefore, we are not going to lose them to a Championship team, because why would they leave a Premier League team? So that's not going to happen. They could go to another club at some point in the future, but I think that this project is so exciting that it's hard to imagine them sort of bailing on it at this stage after spending years getting us from League One to the Premier League. Would you go at the when you finally reach your target and get the Premier League? I'm not 100% sure. And I think the probably the more interesting part of this question is, will teams coming up start to copy our approach? And I'm fascinated to see which Championship clubs start to mimic the Sunderland recruitment policy and start to buy players of that ilk and start to use them sort of markets that we were so good at utilising when we were in the Championship. And that is really, really interesting, because we'll probably see that in the next couple of years. It's possibly even happening right now, but we don't actually know it yet because it's not been long enough. But I think that's really interesting, especially clubs that get relegated down to League One. You look at like Cardiff and Luton, they've had that recently. Could they sort of start to implement Sunderland's recruitment policy that we had at that level of buying academy products for cheap, which is what we'd done when we were in League One in particular, bringing in like Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts, who'd obviously had a bit of a nightmare, and obviously a lot of the other players, Dennis Sergin, etc. We also had that academy, which a lot of teams in Championship League One level don't have, and we were able to bring through a lot of players who came from the academy. Obviously, you see Rigg, Dan Neil, Patterson. There'll be others that I've forgot, but I felt like we just had like a conveyor belt of academy players helping us to get up the level. So I think it will be really, really interesting to see whether or not teams begin to copy the sort of Sunderland model of coming up. We see a lot of people talking about Brentford and Brighton in particular, and Bournemouth, about how they've done it. And it's possible if Sunderland's, become an established Premier League club, that we will be in that conversation where teams go, right, they're trying to mimic what Sunderland are doing. And I think that's quite exciting. It's quite a compliment. It's nice to be thought of in that way, considering the shambles that we were not that long ago, 5-6 years ago. Christ. Yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone for sending in their questions. I think I've answered all the ones there. So that was fun. We might do it again in the next international breaks. Please also let me know what you think of those answers. Tell me if I'm an idiot for some of my answers there. Would you rather beat Newcastle twice and get relegated? Not for me, but maybe you think that way. Let me know in the comment section below. And we'll catch you for another video very soon, where we'll probably be going more in depth on Crystal Palace and what to expect on them. So we'll catch you for that, and we'll see you soon.